Last time I showed you my Action-Mecha game for the first time, where you pilot a complicated machine while being quick, aerial and deadly, in a project inspired by games like Armored Core and Vanquish. After reading the comments of that video, it is clear that the most requested feature to showcase in this devlog is mech customization, among other things. Well, fear not, because I've got you covered and more. Let's get on with it, shall we? Truth be told, after I was done with the previous devlog, my idea was to focus on enemies and AI programming, but after reading your requests, I switched my focus from enemy redesign to adding more player options for weapons, mecha parts and playstyles. And honestly, I'm glad I did. You guys are totally right, mecha and customization go together like milk and cookies. I myself enjoy games with player customization way more than those without. The more the better. I'm really excited to show you everything that we cooked up for this. I simply cannot talk to you about another set of parts for the player mech without first introducing you to the person who is responsible for the art of the game. This poster child mech for the game was designed by him in March along with the sword and revolver. Since then he decided to be a bit more involved with the project. With him we're going to cover the art direction, shaders and character designs.
Thanks, Lev. Hi, I'm Michael. I've been working in the industry as a 3D artist for 10 years. When Lev pitched his game idea to me, it immediately piqued my interest. I always liked the idea of working on a mech game, so we talked a bit about the designs for mechs, and shortly after, also after some feedback from Lev, I designed the mech you've already seen. I was mostly inspired by the mechs from Zone of the Enders, which was the starting point for my design. And from there I added some influences from Pet Labor and other mecha designs. I grew up with Saber Rider and later Pet Labor, Evangelion, Front Mission, Zone of the Enders, to name a few. So I really enjoy the genre as a whole and look forward to be able to design some more mechs myself.
So yeah, now you can customize parts of your mech. These are legs, body, arms and head. They will give their own attributes like weight, carry capacity, and some of them will change the way you play a bit. But determining how your armor will affect the gameplay is still in the design phase. Of course, the system is to select paint jobs is also here now. Currently there are 4 color categories. Primary color takes up the dominant part of the mech. Secondary color is reserved for more flexible parts. Visor color is usually for the headpiece, and output color category is a little bit more interesting. It affects the glowing parts as well as any energy output during gameplay, meaning that if your lights are red, the booster flames would be red as well. I am not sure if this is too much freedom. Please let me know in the comments if you like this output color system or not. Second, let's go over the new and reworked weapon system. Before, you only had your trusty revolver and a sword for melee attacks. It was all programmed inside one character blueprint without any alternative options. I am glad to tell you that you can now put any weapon in your right, left or both hands if you wish. The sword aesthetics were also redesigned. I made it so you actually hold any melee weapon in your hand. Yes, more melee weapons are coming. If just holding the weapon isn't cool enough, you can choose the reverse grip option if that appeals to you. This does not change the gameplay, it is simply a cosmetic option. Before introducing new guns, let me tell you about the Stagger system. If you damage your enemy enough, it will enter a staggered state. At first, I wasn't sure if that is something that I want in my game, but upon implementing the first prototype, it is clear that it was a good mechanic to have. Design-wise, it doesn't play much of a role when it comes to squishy enemies, since they die pretty quickly and you will never see them get staggered. It does play a huge role, however, with the more tanky enemies. Look at it this way. In Elden Ring, every enemy has a stagger bar. Despite its value being hidden from the player, it is still there and accumulating when the player achieves a successful hit. This system is what keeps the players aggressive. You know that if you keep hitting an enemy, you will get rewarded with an opening for a powerful attack. This not only makes you excited to score up additional attacks, but also spices up the combat flow a bit. In my case, staggered enemies receive extra damage for a couple seconds before they go back to their original state. It is fun to figure out how much damage you can squeeze in that short time with your current loadout. Speaking of loadouts, ranged weapons also got new entries in additional love. First of all guns now have 4 main damage related stats. Those are damage, how much damage does the primary fire do, stagger, how much does it fill up the stagger bar upon hitting an enemy, weakness exploit, how much damage is amplified inside the staggered state, and effective range. What is the minimum distance the bullets travel before it becomes ineffective and bounces off the enemy. It takes a lot of time and effort to balance all of the available guns with these stats in question, but having them in the game adds another layer of depth, which is one of the things that are important to me. Let me now introduce you to some of the new guns. The first weapon in the medium category is run-of-the-mill assault rifle. The design of this one is not final. It comes equipped with a larger magazine and an underbarrel grenade launcher. The reason why this medium category matters is because if you don't have a weapon equipped in your left hand, the way you hold the weapon and the gameplay change. This will give you a commando type look for those who find it cosmetically appealing. Pressing the left hand fire button will result in you using an underbarrel weapon. As long as you have ammo, you have access to the alternative fire. However, when you dual wield weapons, the access to the alternative fire only becomes accessible during a perfect dodge, to compensate for the raw power of dual weapons. Every weapon has a special alt fire. Not every assault rifle will be equipped with a grenade launcher. Some will feature shotgun alt fire, bayonets, laser head scans, and so on. Another entry for this one-handed category is the heavy and flexible Warthog. This is a one-handed weapon only, but it's still quite heavy. It has mid to high stagger, decent damage, and a weak stagger exploit. It shoots a different projectile type, which is a bit bulkier than a regular bullet and is propelled forward by a small engine. Because these are technically rockets, they have no drop-off distance. Naturally, balancing these things is quite a challenge, but it's rather fun to work with. In the last video I mentioned that I animate all of my characters in my game with Cascadeur. It is a program that assists you with making your animation smooth and juicy with the help of AI. The reason why I like working in it is because it helps you to position your character in a pose or a given keyframe without you doing extra work. You can see here that I only position my character's right leg and the rest of the character follows up to save me time and headaches. I reached out to Cascadeur and showed them my project. They ended up liking it and we struck a deal. By using the link in the pinned comment below, you can download it for free, and if you end up purchasing any license, I will get a % from that sale. I'm really glad to work with them since their software saved me a lot of time when making this game. But let's keep talking about art. Last time some of you asked about the visual style of the game. As you already noticed, we changed the way shadows are rendered inside the project. They are now way more pronounced, and I honestly prefer it this way. It gives the game a less flat look, and we would like to tell you why we went with this style for our game. Naturally, as a fan of games that inspired this project, I wanted to go with realistic assets and graphics for the game. Cool mechs with a lot of detail are badass and fun to pilot. That is why earlier builds of the game look the way they do. However, simply put, for us and this kind of game, going for realistic graphics is simply not feasible. Relying on the asset store is simply not possible because of the dramatic difference in level of detail, poly count, and artistic consistency. Also, creating cel-shaded graphics is simply quicker than producing realistic assets. The simplicity of the shapes and the stylized look require fewer detail. This means we spend less time on each asset, allowing us to create a vibrant and cohesive world faster. In contrast, realistic graphics demand a high level of detail, which takes significantly more time to model, texture, and refine. In cel shading, the need for complex textures and normal maps is reduced. Normal baking, which involves creating detailed texture maps to simulate higher resolution details on a lower resolution model, is a time-consuming process. With cel shading, we can focus on bold outlines and colors, eliminating the need for intricate textures and normal maps. This not only saves time but also simplifies the workflow, making it easier to manage as a small team. Cel-shaded graphics are generally less demanding on hardware than realistic graphics. This is crucial for indie developers, as it broadens our potential audience and ensures more players can enjoy our game without needing high-end hardware. In summary, opting for a cel-shaded art style is a strategic decision that aligns with our capabilities as a two-person indie team. It enables us to produce high-quality visuals more quickly and efficiently, manage assets with ease, ensure better performance, and create a unique artistic identity for our game. We believe this choice will not only help us to complete the game in a reasonable time frame, but also deliver an engaging and visually appealing experience for you guys. We have also settled on the mech's average size. This is your mech on a road next to a destroyed vehicle. Here it stands around 6 to 7 meters or 20 to 22 feet tall. At first my idea was to make them human-sized, but Michael convinced me to experiment with the bigger size, and I have to say I prefer it this way. At this time I was also implementing dynamic destruction to the game, and seeing your massive mech just burst through a small building is quite satisfying. So I think this mech's size is overall a win. When it comes to the lore or the story of the game, I'm still not sure if it is in good enough state to tell you guys about it. I'm constantly changing lore and story elements to make it more interesting and exciting. If you have an idea for world building, please leave it down in the comments. I would like to take any inspirations I can into consideration. The project overall is going great and smooth, however some gameplay elements and design choices are quite challenging at times. I work on this game pretty much 10 hours a day without taking days off or weekends. So I've decided to give it a try and open a Patreon for this project. If you like where the game is going, please consider supporting us on Patreon. There I will be posting behind the scenes videos and images for those interested in the game's direction, design decisions and other stuff you don't get to see on YouTube. As always, if you want us to cover something in particular in the next devlog, let us know. Currently, the plan is to work on the enemies. Give them smarter AI and maybe finally introduce our first enemy mech piloted by a character. We also wanted to rename the game to give it a bit more character as well. For now, thank you so much for watching these devlogs and following the development of Rapid. Please look forward to more updates, subscribe, like, comment and all of that good stuff, and see you next time! Video ending.